Okay, great. Okay, so yeah, this was really pretty cool, Barbara. I've had quite a few people that responded very, very strongly to what you were saying about, um, your journey. And of course, people were like, how do I get this formula? And how do I get, help with this?
Hmm.
So now, the process wasn't immediate. I mean, I'm not gonna, we kind of want to know, how did this progress? I mean, was it first making sure your diet was completely clean? It was really just changing everything before you did this, researching Hoxsey and the history and doing that. Was that the first step in your journey?
Yeah, my first step was actually the research portion, just because there was so much I didn't know that I didn't know. I
Right. Right.
had to really dig in to try to understand what was going on, what I was up against, and I just wanted options. Through that process of investigating, I discovered there's a big portion that has to do with detoxifying the body from buildup, overload from over the years. And the reason why that's an important key is because you really want to have an immune system that's strong. I don't
Right.
think that most people realize that, you know, I think 80% of the immune system is actually in the gut. And
Hmm.
so if your gut microbiome is imbalanced, or if your digestive system isn't working optimally, you have impaired immunity.
Mm.
And when you have impaired immunity, then you become at risk for diseases like breast cancer.
Right.
Um, so I really thought it was important for me personally to try to get my body in the most pristine shape I could possibly get it in before I embarked on this alternative protocol, because I thought if I really want to have a shot at having it work, I want to be sure that I'm doing everything I can do to make sure that my body's going to be receptive to it, and it
Right.
would be, it would be reacting positively and not having to kind of sift through toxins and other stuff that had been building up in my body over the years. So the first thing I did was I did a lot of research about detoxifying, and because the detoxifying process was so important, I felt like it was important to do it naturally with food. As opposed to, because like you can look out there on the market, and there are lots of different powders and stuff that you can just buy, formulations and things like that, or people even they take pills and then they do a detox. But I really thought it was important to do that process naturally, because
Hmm.
I thought as I'm doing the detox, I want to not only remove what's there that shouldn't be there, I wanted to build up my body's capacity for healing. And
Right.
really, the big important part of that is the food piece. So I did a detox with it was a pretty stringent one, actually, and I was not used to doing anything like that, but I thought,
Mm.
it's it's sink or swim time. We have to kind of jump in with both feet.
Now,
So I
when you said strict, now is it because obviously you had talked about in the first, part one, about like you would eat M&Ms and you do stress eating. Was that when you say strict, now you're going the complete 360 is what you're saying, right?
Yep,
Okay.
exactly. I
So
did a
can you
complete
describe what that means to someone when you say it was really restrictive? I mean, was it celery juice? Was it what were you doing to
um
actually do the detox part of it?
it was actually the 30 days of an all liquid diet. And
Really? So no solids at all. No
no
solids.
solids at all for
Oh
me.
wow. Okay.
So it was 30 days of doing that. It was juicing, blended soups. I kind of made up my own recipes for blended soups, raw soups and some that were lightly cooked. But really the goal was to get a lot of nutrients into my body, make it easy for my body to digest, and also adding to that, I added things like wormwood and some other herbal things like that to sort of address whether or not I might have had parasite activity going on in my
Right.
body. And I know that sounds gross,
No,
people out
no,
there.
I've been there. I talk about that a little separately of how I got that issue when I was cleaning out an old chicken coop on a rural property. And my doctor asked if I went to a third world country. I go, no.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, yeah, the chicken. Yeah, we talk about it separately, and I talk about how I used
Clove,
clove tea or coconut
wormwood.
detoxicologist
Yeah.
recommended to kill the parasites in the gut, and that is also very,
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly. So
right,
all of those things I used, and the reason why it was so strict for me personally was because I had never done anything like that before. In fact, prior to my experience, I mean, I thought people who ate healthy were just fanatics and they were just extreme for no reason. And I just thought
hmm
it was ridiculous. It had no basis in reality for me. So I literally gave up all of my junky food that I was used to eating. And I did it overnight. Now, I will say it was not easy,
right,
especially getting started was difficult. And I remember I had days where it was a little rough, and my husband was very supportive, and he would say to me, "You know what? Don't think about tomorrow." Because I would say, "I don't know if I could do this for 30 days. I just don't know." And he'd say,
right,
"Don't think about tomorrow. Just think about today.
right,
Do today, work on tomorrow." And it was really great insight for me, and it helped me to keep going. And the other thing that helped me to keep going, obviously, was that I wanted to I wanted to recover from cancer. I
hmm
believed that this was going to work for me, and
hmm
I believed that so strongly because there's so many people out there that actually have also reversed their cancers and other illnesses nutritionally. And
right,
so I thought, well, if they did it, there's no reason why it can't work for me.
hmm
But I had to go all in, like I was saying. And
right,
so, and even when it was difficult, I would always remind myself, at least when I'm doing this, I'm not putting some experimental chemical into my body, some type of drug that we don't know what the side effect is going to be. I thought if nothing else ever came of it, it would never hurt me to eat more broccoli. And
right,
that was like my mantra
right, right, right.
through this whole thing. So yeah, so I did that, like I said, faithfully for 30 days. And that in that process, I really started to see changes in my body right away. I mean, I lost 30 pounds in the process. And
Was that in just 1 month, Barbara?
yeah,
Wow, 30 pounds. Wow,
yeah,
I didn't know.
it was unbelievable because prior to that, just before the year I was diagnosed, I had just started menopause and I had been one of those girls that gained a lot of weight, couldn't
hmm
get it off. And although that was not my goal, it
Right.
was a really happy side effect. So, I lost this weight and I felt energized, re-energized every day. I just, I felt like better than I had in many, many, many years.
hmm
And I attribute that all to that detox process and to changing the way I ate. Yeah, for
Right.
sure. And then
Wow.
after that,
Oh, but
once
let me ask you a quick question because I'm a big vitamin queen since I was a kid, after
Mhm.
reading this Reader's Digest article when I was 12. Did you take any vitamin supplements at all during this 30-day cleanse, detox cleanse?
The cleanse process, I did not. I did just like I said, the I did supplements that supported the cleanse process, like you're saying, like the clove, the
Right.
wormwood. I
Right.
used fiber, dietary fiber, to help with the cleansing process.
Okay.
I also used bentonite clay, which you may or may not have heard
Yes, no,
of.
I've heard of bentonite. Yes.
And
Yes.
basically, what that does is it pulls all the toxins away from the lining of the colon so that your
hmm
body can process them out.
hmm
And then I used other supportive, like herbal teas and things like that, that would support, or like some supplementation that supports liver function,
hmm
kidney function,
Right.
gallbladder function, those types of things, all
Okay.
really geared around detoxifying my body, resetting my immune system, and resetting my organs.
hmm
That was
Okay.
pretty much the goal.
Gotcha.
After when I after I did this 30-day process is when I ended up going to Mexico to get this other herbal
Okay.
tonic.
So that's when you had, no, so I have read, I sent you the article link, which we're going to include in this episode,
Hmm.
of this new posted history on Harry Hoxsey and his family history
Hmm.
of how his grandfather had, come up with the formula, how it was passed down, and how finally, after all the clinics were shut down by the FDA in the States, how he and his nurse basically had opened with his blessing the biomedical center in
Right.
Tijuana, Mexico.
Correct.
Now, and there's great information in the article about how to contact them and a booklet on other institutes that do this kind of natural treatment for cancer. Did you have to just kind of give us more insight into this? Did you have to do like a prior appointment to say, okay, I'm going to be coming in X amount of time? Is it a very, is it a process where there's a waiting list or anything like that? I mean, how can you walk us through how that worked out?
There was no waiting list, which was great.
Mhm.
The only reason why I personally had to wait to go is because I had to get everything settled with my travel plans. But if
Oh,
for people who are interested in going there, all you really have to do is reach out to them through email. And that's what I
mhm.
did. I just reached out to them because first, when I found them, I went to their website. I don't remember if we talked about this the last time. I apologize, but if I did, you can stop me.
No.
And I had contacted a former patient of the biomedical center who had been there
I think
many
20 years
times.
prior, you said, right? 20 years ago.
Yes, 20
Right.
years. She had been
20 years
diagnosed
ago.
20 years. So you knew that part. Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah, no,
yeah.
but these are great references that this clinic is allowing
Oh
people
yeah.
to hear firsthand experience
Oh
from
yeah.
other people that have gone there and who were, like you said, I think you said she was stage 4 cancer, wasn't she?
She was. She was
Right,
stage 4. And it was that to me was so it was reassuring in a way because it's a big deal for any patient to sort of go against the grain, go against what their conventional doctor is telling them. It's a big deal. And for some
yeah,
people, it's a big deal just to kind of go against even what common knowledge your family has. Family
right,
will put a lot of pressure on you as a patient. And it's really because they're afraid. Everybody's so afraid when a cancer diagnosis comes in that, you know, people just don't want to lose you. So they just
right.
want you to get into treatment as soon as possible. But they're not well informed that there are these other alternatives available. So after I had done my due diligence about this place, I reached out to them through email and I said, hey, this is my story. This is my diagnosis. I'd like to come down. I'm thinking I'm coming during this time period.
Mm.
And they said, okay. They asked me to, I don't remember if they asked, oh, they didn't do it for me at the time, but they are doing it now ever since COVID when there were all the shutdowns is
Right.
um, lots of times they will, if you contact them, they'll ask you to send your records. You can email your records to them.
Oh,
And then
gotcha.
they will review your case. Sometimes they'll do it remotely, and then you would have a video consult with a physician who's
Mhm.
on staff there, and they'll look at your stuff. Sometimes they'll recommend that you come down there. When I went, it was pre-COVID, so there were no restrictions on doing
Right,
anything. So it was like
right.
I just contacted them and I said, what do I need to do? And they said to
Mhm.
me, well, make sure you have all your records together, and when you come down, they recommend that you stay on, you could do one of two things. You could stay on the US side of the Mexican border, which is
Right,
San Diego, very close to the bottom of, it's like
right,
Baja.
right.
Or you can stay in Mexico. I stayed in San Diego, and they have certain places have actual shuttles that'll take
Oh,
you from the
okay,
hotel right to the clinic. And
okay.
there's also, I think, one or two independent drivers that work, with the clinic, and they'll pick you up and they'll drive you there. So you don't have to
Oh,
worry about your car.
okay.
When you go, you get there and you sign in, and then they do some pretty rigorous testing. They do a lot of blood work on you. They test like everything under the sun.
Hmm.
And things that I never thought I should have tested before, like your vitamin D levels, which is
Right.
huge for
Right.
people who have cancer, especially breast cancer. It's
Hmm.
like one of the major risk factors is having very low vitamin D levels.
Right. And it's what's interesting that you mentioned that, Barbara, is because not that every doctor does this, but like the one I was using in California for annual physicals actually would, with the blood, the testing your cholesterol and blood
Yep.
pressure and all that, and
Yep.
white and red cell
Comprehensive
count and all,
panels. Hmm.
would do a vitamin D panel to see
Hmm.
what your vitamin D level was. And they actually did find that's also very key besides glutathione levels. Vitamin D levels is also, what they were seeing is how resistant you are to viruses like COVID as well.
Yep.
It's very
Yep.
key to that as well. So
It
yeah, it's interesting.
is.
It's vitamin D is also very important regarding cancer as
It's
well.
extremely important. And that when I work with my clients, I that's the first thing I tell them. Have you had your vitamin D levels checked? And most of them say, "What?"
What?
Because
Right.
I was never tested when I went to my conventional doctors. I had no idea that that
Mm,
was, something that you could monitor that would actually,
right.
decrease your risk and even help you to get to a point where, your body will be strong enough so you won't have cancers developing, right?
Right. What was
Nothing.
do you remember what your level was when you started, when they checked you?
Subpar. It was like
Really? It was really
so
that
far
bad.
down on the chart that it
Oh,
barely even registered.
oh,
And I didn't
wow.
know it. I didn't know it.
Wow.
But and I had, who knows how long it had been that way. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
wow.
And I actually live in the Northeast, so we don't always have wonderful weather where we can get
Right.
outside and we can get some sunshine so we can activate the vitamin D,
Right. But
for
also
our
you were
health.
working a very stressful job where you probably just didn't even see the light of day.
You're absolutely right about that. You're
Right.
absolutely, I was one of those, you burn the candles at both ends and, it's
Right.
almost like you work in Vegas because there's no
Right.
time, there's no day, there's no night.
Right.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
So they'll do all of that blood work on you. They'll send you for some x-ray depending on what your cancer is, and they treat all different kinds of cancers, not just breasts. They do
Right.
all different kinds. Sometimes they'll send you to they have some of that equipment there right at the
Hmm.
clinic, and they also have a relationship with a hospital which is not far from there, so if you need other things they'll send you down to the hospital. They have a driver who'll take you there and bring you
Hmm.
back. And then
Okay.
after all that's done, that's usually prior to lunchtime. And then at lunchtime, after lunch, the doctors all get together and they review everyone's cases, and then they put together a treatment protocol for each person depending on what their needs are.
Okay.
And so after lunch, then they call you back and then they take a look they show you all of your test results. They explain all your test results to you, which was a new thing for me too.
Hmm.
Um, they show you what's going on. In my case, I was really happy because when they did all my testing, they could see from there that all of my other things that need to be monitored were really, really good, like, cholesterol levels,
Mm.
blood sugar levels, all of those things were really, really good. And I totally attribute that to the detox process
Right.
because
Right.
prior to that, my cholesterol was not good. There were other things going on, and I knew that, but I didn't really know how to address it aside from possibly doing medications.
Right.
So I was actually really happy that all of my test results came back good. They had told me at that time that they could see that, everything was, as far as the cancer that I had, it was contained. So it
Mm.
wasn't metastasized in any way or spread. And so they ended up prescribing me the Hoxsey tonic, and they have different levels of the tonic, different strengths, all
Right.
various ones depending on what your need is. And then they also prescribed me a supplement that takes the place of tamoxifen because I had an estrogen positive breast cancer, and they would have conventional docs would have put me on tamoxifen pretty much for the rest
Really?
of my life to keep
Wow.
the estrogen levels down. The problem with tamoxifen is that it's known to cause uterine cancer,
Mm.
and it's also known, they've just found this out not too long ago, that women who take tamoxifen are at a really, really high risk for developing a secondary cancer of triple negative breast cancer, which is
Oh,
one of the
man.
most aggressive cancers there,
Wow.
for women.
Hmm.
And so I was happy to have an alternative to that, which was a natural alternative minus the side effects. So that was a beautiful thing.
Hmm.
They also prescribed me some other supplementation that was basically the essence of cruciferous vegetables,
Okay.
encapsulate in an encapsulated form. And they also gave me another supplement, which is called YEW. And basically, it comes from trees in Montana, and
Okay.
it's known to actually kill cancer cells.
Mm.
So these were the things. And then if you don't have an advanced stage, like I did not, they will, or even if you do, you would have to be really far advanced if for them not to send you home. Usually after the end of that day, you have everything in place, you have everything you need. If they
Mhm.
can't give you what you need, they tell you where you can get it. So when you get home, you can get it. And then
Okay.
they just send you home. And
Okay.
then you follow the protocol, what they tell you. In my case, they said, and most people, I think it's true, you have to take the tonic like 4 times a day. There are dietary restrictions when taking the tonic because the tonic becomes ineffective if you eat highly acidic foods.
Mm.
So you
Right.
have to stay away from things like tomatoes,
Yep.
anything with vinegar in it.
The nightshade vegetables. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
anything that's like highly acidic, and then
Right.
also you have to stay away from carbonated beverages
Mhm.
and, of course, alcoholic
Right.
beverages. And the
Right.
one other big thing that you need to stay away from when you're on the tonic is pork. And I'm not surprised about that because pork is not the cleanest
Right.
food out there.
Mm.
And so, you have to follow their dietary restriction because if the doctor will tell you if you're not willing to follow it, don't bother because it's
Gotcha.
just not going to work,
Right.
right?
Right.
So you have to follow that. You have to take everything when they tell you. And then in my case, they told me because all of my other test results were so good from that cleansing process that I had been on, they said to me, whatever you're doing, keep doing that. And
Right.
then do this too. And then they said, we want to see you again in 6 months.
Okay.
And
So
so,
basically it's a 6 month process so that it gives your body time to heal, time to get it in your system, get get your cells changing, you know what I mean, getting back to where they need to be to
mhm,
not be in a cancerous multiplying state
yes,
and then see where you're at. So,
right, right. And in
okay.
my case, when I went back, they did all the testing again, and they couldn't find the cancer anymore. And so
Wow.
it worked, which is a huge, incredible blessing that it even worked. And I
Right.
was amazed and thankful and so excited. I just
Wow.
wanted to
Yes.
tell everybody, this is an option. This stuff really works. And the coolest thing about it, I mean, through COVID, they were under more restrictive hours and things like that. They
Right.
were and the amount of patients, just like everybody.
Right.
But so through that time period, they did make a transition. They started working with more people remotely, like I
Mm.
mentioned earlier, where you could send your stuff and you can, depending
Cons-
on what you're up against, there's always an option to possibly work remotely with them, and they're really good about that. But
right.
what's really great about being able to go there, if you think you want to try this and you decide you want to go there, is when you go there, you meet so many people with so many different who had so many different stages of cancer, and many of them are just coming back for their annual checkup,
Hmm.
and all, every one of them has had amazing success, all different types of cancers. And it's
Right.
such an encouraging environment because it's like when you see these people who were basically written off because their their health issue was so far advanced, and then see them how they've gotten their lives back, how encouraged they are, how enthusiastic they are. Every one of them will tell you how amazing it is. And what's
Right.
even cooler is they have these logbooks, like like diaries almost. And when you go, they encourage you to put an entry in there. And if you, while you're waiting, you can sit and read these books for all these people. And what's even cooler is you'll see the same people, year after year after year, because they keep coming back for their checkup. And it's like something like 10 years, 20 years, they just keep
Wow.
coming back, and they're still alive. I mean, it's the most amazing thing ever.
Right. So, so in let me ask you a question, because most people are going to have this question, especially now with how pricing is going up with everything, gas, food, and everything else. Do they take insurance at all, or is it considered not covered by insurance at all?
Well, when I was there, they were trying to get insurance to cover it, but they were not successful at that time. I don't know what they're doing right now.
Mhm.
But as far as I know, it's because it's not an
Right,
FDA approved
right.
protocol,
Mhm.
which is why we can't get it here in the United States,
Right,
right?
right.
Because of that, it's very difficult. I will tell people though that it's like, I know it's not covered by insurance, or it wasn't for me, but it's like a fraction, and I'm talking a sliver of what it would cost you, other
Can you,
treatments
and
would
just give us
cost
an example, because I know pricing changes, but
you.
can you give an example of what would it have cost you to, well, I don't know if you ever did, just as a comparison, what it was going to cost to do 5 years of chemo versus 6 months, a 6 month plan with the biomedical center.
Well,
Um,
I did not actually price out chemo. I will tell you, when I went for my biopsy, it cost $20,000 just for the breast biopsy.
wow.
So
But most of that was through the insurance
that
though.
was
So you,
that was through
yeah,
insurance. So it
wow.
was
But
$20,000. That was just
wow,
that,
$20,000.
not
Wow.
counting the drug regimen that they were recommending.
Right.
And when I went to biomedical center, I think the whole thing, the being seen by the doctor, all the testing, the tonic, and some of the supplements that they
Mhm.
provide to you, I believe my whole trip was less than $3,000.
Wow. So yeah,
And
I'd say that's a great,
it's a fraction. Yeah. I
investment
mean,
into,
not counting the travel. I mean,
right.
what it costs
I,
you to fly there or stay there. But yeah.
right. I would say that's definitely, friends and family could probably help somebody if they didn't have it on their own, get that money, because that's not a lot of money. I mean, it's basically under $5,000 to, get their, of course, probably depending on what stage their cancer is in. But if
Hmm.
they just have a first diagnosis, just like you did, and get treatment quickly, they could nominally um, not spend a lot of money to cure their cancer and
Yeah.
be healthy and in a
Yeah.
healthy way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
Right.
Totally
So,
makes more sense than poisoning yourself to try to get well.
right.
That's all I'll
So
say.
I know we don't have too much extra time, but just as a curiosity, have you found then, after then getting trained as a master certified coach, do you find you actually have more people coming to you with their, with a cancer issue that you help them recover from? I mean, is that,
Yeah, actually, I've been working a lot with different women in different stages of breast cancer, and some other people who have different cancers. And I'm
mhm,
also working with people who don't have cancer at all. So that's always a cool thing, to try to help people to, you know, reset their system and create an environment in their body where cancer doesn't grow or thrive. It's going to be easier to do that than
right.
to combat cancer once it has,
Absolutely. Preventative
grown.
is better than having to fight when you actually have it. So
Yes, for
absolutely.
sure. For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Well, I think it's great, because so basically we've covered that detoxifying is key. If you've had a lifetime of, bad eating habits, in getting, cleansing the body out, getting it as healthy as possible.
Hmm.
And it looks to me like, and from the history, we're going to include the historical article for people to read in the video. is it's an amazing, and it's just too bad that the FDA and AMA at the time decided, after he was successfully doing it for almost 60 years
I know.
here in the
And
States.
so many people were
Right,
healed of their cancer.
right. We're
Yeah.
cured of the, right. I mean, they have the newspaper articles on it and everything. So yeah, I mean, hopefully there might be a chance in the future it'll come back, because as I'm seeing, talking to people such as yourself, and I'm going to be interviewing others, did the same thing that you did. More and more people are looking for natural alternatives where they found, oh, I've been using this medication for 10 years. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I just want to get off this hamster wheel. And they then say, I got to look for something different, and are going natural,
Yeah.
looking for natural alternatives, and very happy to do so.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. They're amazingly powerful. You know, whatever your point of reference may be, mine was non-existent at the time. And prior to my experience, it never really occurred to me that plant-based anything would be have enough power to do anything at all.
right.
But it's incredibly powerful. And the coolest thing about it is you're not damaging your body through the process.
That's a big key. No adverse effects,
Mhm.
no, right, absolutely. Where you have brain fog, you can't even do your job, you can't even think
Exactly.
straight. Yeah,
Hmm.
you feel good. You're actually getting better as the process is going,
Yep.
without suffering, without
Yes.
suffering through it.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, Barbara, I'm so thrilled, that you were able to, share your incredible, cancer recovery, and show that it was really not through any type of medication. You were able to lose 30 pounds that you didn't know you really wanted to,
I
had an issue
know.
with, that helped to adjust your cholesterol level naturally. You look fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I'm sure you're such an inspiration to many people. So I'm very thankful that you're able to, give us a background as someone who's actually gone through the Hoxsey Biomedical Treatment Center there. And yeah, this will give people a lot of hope, and a lot of um, well, I mean, it's a natural solution. It's an alternative to harsh chemo and harsh medication therapy. Absolutely.
Yeah, it definitely is. Definitely is.
Okay.
I would tell people what that woman told me at the time, you know. She said, you know, if you're even thinking about it, you may want to give it a try because they'll never turn you away from surgery, radiation, or chemo. If it
Exactly.
doesn't work, you can always go back.
Always go and call up that doctor and say, okay, I guess I'll be
Yeah.
zapped.
Yeah,
But
but you know what?
yeah,
If you go earlier, you have your shot of recovery becomes so much greater because you're you're compromised to begin with, but you're not devastated. So
right,
your body is much more resilient, and our bodies are amazingly resilient. They're designed to heal. You
right.
just have to support that process.
Exactly. But also it's encouraging that even stage 4, or like people like you had met, that this is, what do you have to lose? You have nothing
Exactly.
to lose by doing this, and history and all your testimony and others supports this. So Barbara, thank you so much. I'm going to be including your links again, and I think you have also said you have a special PDF booklet.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
It's called Five Things I Wish I Had Known Before I Was Diagnosed with Breast Cancer. And
okay.
I'll have a link for you to grab that. All you have to do is go to my website and you
Mhm.
can get it for free.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you so much, Barbara. Have a blessed weekend, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Thank you.
Okay, take care.